I do it all sort of real time. I don't do it via computers. So it's tough, but it's great. I mean, if that's all I've got to worry about in life, what's my problem? But it is hard work, and I guess like anything that's worthwhile, hard work is going to be involved in there somewhere. So what usually happens, or what used to happen, going back 2 or 3 times, once I'd sent them into Medline, and breathe a bit of a sigh of relief and say, "Well, that's good. That was a hard 2 months to 2 to 3 months work, fitting in every spare evening that I might have, or sometimes during the days, just working on it and actually loving it. I mean, if I didn't like doing it, I guess that will be it. But I love doing it. But it's also it can be stressful, particularly the recording process. When, as I've said before,
Yeah.
I discover that I know more swear words than I realised before if I make mistakes. So it's tough. But what used to happen for a couple of days afterwards, well, actually for 2 or 3 weeks afterwards, after sending them, sort of giving birth to my children, my offspring, is the way I sort of look at it. There's a sense of relief, and I can relax a bit. Although I'm always pretty busy, I'm not having to put my mind to what is a pretty tough, albeit enjoyable task. But lately, I found 2 or 3 days afterwards where I have that sense of, I can just, I don't wake up and think, I've got a lot of work to do on a song. It's 2 or 3 days later, I'm kind of champing at the bit to start again, which I suppose is what having a creative urge is all about. And that is how it's been lately. I want to get cracking with it, and I don't always manage to because of other things happening. But in other words, that process doesn't really go away. So why do I like that process? Well, I've often said you start with nothing, you create from nothing something that comes out of you, out of your head, out of your imagination, and you end with something that hopefully is agreeable to people who might listen to it. So that's the process. But then we make the mistake perhaps in anything, not just songwriting, but it could be writing a book or writing a paper, an essay, anything, painting a picture. We think that the song, in my case, is the hard part. And actually, we couldn't be more wrong. And to illustrate that, I'll say about someone called Leonard Reed. He's quite a well-known person in literary circles. And in 1958, he wrote a book, or it was an essay actually, an essay called I Pencil, which is where my comment about pencil comes in. And he wrote this essay, and I commend it to anybody. You can look it up on Google about this. I'm the pencil, and it goes, and it's really for children to read as well. And it was sent to lots of schools, I believe. The pencil describes what goes in to making the pencil, and let's just look at that briefly. If you said, I'm gonna make a pencil, bruv, this is what I'm going to do, you'd say, well, first of all, you've got to cut the wood, right? You've got to find the wood for a pencil. So that's the first thing you've got to do. Then you've got to mine the metal. You've got to mine the metal. If only for that little bit which holds the eraser, the rubber, and that metal bit is called a ferrule. So you've got to mine the metal. You then got to tap the rubber trees for the latex, and you put a cup there, and the latex drops in. Quite incredible, really, how it doesn't damage a tree, and it can be done like that for many years. But you've got to tap the tree to get that rubber. Then you've got to dig up the graphite, because you find it underground. We talked about graphite earlier. Then you've got to mix some paint. Now, all this process is happening to make your pencil. Happening to make your pencil. And actually, I think you could be forgiven for coming to thinking about it and saying, look, it's not possible. I think my comment on the introduction to this was no one can make a pencil.
Mm.
And when you think of what is involved in making a pencil, it's no wonder, is it? Because all to actually end up with a pencil, and there's so many aspects of this we could talk about, and I could go on all day, but most things in this world that we set our eyes upon are incredible, things we just take for granted. And behind almost everything we see, and we'll include a pencil, there is an invisible network of, I suppose, hundreds of thousands, millions of people going back hundreds, thousands of years. And in a way, whenever we try and do something ourselves, writing a song or painting a picture or taking a photograph, what we're doing, we're standing on the shoulders of giants. Do you get that? I mean, everything we try to do, what we're doing now, we're looking at each other through a computer screen. Now, we contemplate what has gone into that possibility, that we could even think of something like that I can see you, talk to you, and vice versa, when you're a good few, 200 or 300 miles away from me, and yet we can do it in real time, in the present moment. So we stand on the shoulders of people. So coming back to my songs, and when you do songs as well, yeah, I have this idea. Well, I'm a lone warrior, me against the world. I'm starting with nothing, and I'm going to end up with a song which hopefully, as I say, is agreeable. But what then goes into that? Think of the musical instruments. You think of the beauty of a guitar, the shape of a guitar. It's an aesthetically beautiful thing. And I think going back to, I think the acoustic guitar was originally invented, if you like, I think it was the early 1800s, and then the electric guitar, last century, that was invented, and a fantastic instrument. You have a piano. Again, the piano goes back hundreds of years to when that was devised and invented. You have drums, you have keyboards, you have brass instruments. I mean, I've got a saxophone, an instrument like a piano accordion, which is based on a piano, but much more difficult because you've got to keep pulling the bellows like that. So so there's me thinking, well, I'm doing this from nothing, and I'm going to end up with that. Actually, I am simply and literally, if you like, well, almost literally, standing on the shoulders of brilliant people, nameless, numberless individuals going back, in some cases, hundreds or thousands of years. So that's why we say no one can make a pencil. So what is your view of what we've said, so what I've said?